Sorry. Oh, my apologies. Welcome everyone, and being with us today. I'm having issues here because it wouldn't be a Zoom meeting without someone having some technical issues, and sadly it's me. Hopefully it's just gonna be me. So welcome to the Virtual College Fair, Minnesota students, sponsored by the Minnesota Association for College Admissions Counseling and Strive Scan. Thank you for joining us. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of the many different sessions happening, so to be sure to check out the full schedule at mn-acac.org. The presentation is being recorded and will be available within about a week on the same website, mn-acac.org. I'd now like to turn this over to our presenters.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for being here today. I am going to share my screen, and we will just get going. So, again, thanks for being here. You have decided to attend Overcoming Your Fears in the College Search. And what you'll find here is this is really a collaborative effort between a few different institutions and 5 admission professionals total. So on today's panel, we have Brandon Wente from Concordia College in Moorhead, Matt Henry from North Dakota State University, myself, Andrew Wolf, also from NDSU, Emily Matron, who is a retired college and career center manager, was with Chanhassen High School for many years, and Jim Johnson from the North Dakota State College of Science. And before we jump into the main topic of today's presentation, which is again, overcoming fears in the college search, we're gonna take a quick minute or two to learn about each of our participating institutions. So Brandon, we will start it off with you and Concordia College.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So yeah, real quick, Concordia College, we are a 4-year private liberal arts institution located in Moorhead, Minnesota, roughly like 2,100 students. So kind of, like I said, that small campus sort of feel, strong majors and programs in things like music, business, sciences, and our mascot is a fighting ear of corn.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brandon. Jim.
Hi, my name is Jim Johnson. I have the privilege to work as the Regional Admissions Counselor for North Dakota State College of Science, which is located in Wahpeton, North Dakota, about an hour south of Fargo. Founded in 1903, NDSCS is the second oldest public 2-year college in the nation. We have approximately 3,000 full-time and part-time students. The college offers degree and certificate and diplomas in just over 80 traditional career and technical studies, as well as liberal arts. In addition to academics, NDSCS offers a complete collegiate experience with residence halls, a vibrant campus life, student clubs, organizations, fine arts, and athletics. We are the Wildcats.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. And Matt, NDSU.
Hi, everybody. My name is Matt Henry, and I'm representing North Dakota State University. NDSU is a 4-year public institution located in Fargo, North Dakota. We have 100 different majors, 300 clubs, and 14 D1 athletic teams. Some popular options for majors include engineering, nursing, pharmacy, architecture, and business. And we're kind of representative of a mid-sized college at about 13,000 students. We are the Bison.
Great. Thank you, Matt. And Emily, finish us off here.
Yes, my name is Emily Matron, and I have the privilege of working with students like you and families and wonderful college representatives in 20 years in my role as the College and Career Center Manager at first Chaska High School and then Chanhassen High School, and just retired last June. But this has always been one of my favorite events that we ever hosted, is this collaborative in-person college fair, which of course had to change for this year, but I think it's such a great resource for all of you. So I'm excited to be along with all the other panelists. Thank you.
Yeah, well said, Emily. We're so excited to be here today and share a few thoughts with you all. And we want to get started with just one kind of foundational fact, and that is that it's absolutely normal to feel nervous about going to college. And guess what? Your classmates are feeling secretly just as nervous as you are. So in the course of this presentation, we're going to try and give you some different things to think about to, again, overcome those fears. And a lot of the ways that you're able to overcome those fears are through preparation. So we may, be throwing out more questions than we are necessarily answering, but that's by design. We just want to get you thinking. And of course, the goal is to eventually have you go on and speak with college admission counselors and your school counselors to learn more. But to get started, Emily, do you want to just talk through a few common fears that maybe you had seen throughout your career?
Absolutely. And I also first wanted to say that just the fact that you have signed on to hear this panel means that you are taking that step to just dive into the process. And that is one of the best ways to help you start overcoming those fears, by just asking questions, knowing resources, engaging in the process, finding it exciting, moving from being fearful to wanting to find out more. That curiosity and wondering what it will all be like should help you maneuver the process. And it also depends a lot on where you are. It's different if you are currently a freshman, or if you are a senior, or if you were oldest in your family, or youngest, or first in your family to go, or an immigrant new to the whole higher education system. So the types of questions you have and concerns may be different, but if you become that curious, I wonder what this is all about, I think you'll find it an enjoying process, learning all about yourself. So on this list, I'm going to focus on a few of the things that some of our graduates always talked about to our students. We had an event where graduates would come and talk to current students about their experiences. And typically the biggest message that those graduates would tell current students: try not to worry so much. It's amazing how much you can learn about, how many people are there to help you. Roommates typically worked out, and those who didn't had a sense of humor and figured out how to figure it out with another roommate. And they were all concerned about doing well in class, and stressed the importance of going to find tutors and asking for help, that's how you succeed. So if there are specific things on this list that you have questions about, certainly type that in. But it is a home away from home, and things will come up. But the more you are engaged and curious, you'll find that there are lots of people who want to help you be successful too.
All right, so we just posed a lot of different fears and potential concerns that you might have about the college search process. And we're going to be asking a lot of questions throughout these slides here too. But I think before we get too far into it, I do just want to stress kind of one message that we all have here as our group, is that college is really exciting and should be a fun experience to discover and search for. College is a really great time of your life where you'll get to meet new people. You'll get to focus on a career or a subject that you want to learn more about, and really start to guide your path on what you want to do in your life. You gain a lot of independent skills. You're potentially in a new location, maybe far away from home, or maybe living on your own for the first time. There's a lot of different things that come with a college experience. So even though there is a lot to potentially be wondering about, and a lot of things that could be causing you some fears, and I'm sure everybody on this panel could tell you they had their own personal fears when they were searching for colleges, you should still be excited about this search process. So just make sure, if you can take away anything from this, don't come out of this session fearful, come out excited with all the new information that you know what to look for.
So I think one of the ways that students will obviously get started with that college search is just exploring the amount of different options that are out there. And I mean, we could obviously do a whole 45-minute presentation on just the types of colleges and the types of programs that exist. But I think when you're looking at a couple of these different options, just knowing that, like, with four-year colleges, there are private and public or state options. Those 2-year colleges also have some different opportunities as well. But one way to maybe think about how to even sort of navigate, well, where might I find that fit? Could be to start thinking about, types of careers that you're most interested in, and then researching what are the degree requirements for that career. Because some careers might only require, an associate's degree where you would do 2 years, or they might only need like a certificate program, or might need some additional, sort of pieces. But I think like that very last line there, that there is a place for everyone, I guess, regardless of whatever route you take. So if it's doing 2 years to get your generals out of the way and then completing that 4-year degree somewhere else, we see that plenty of times. If it's doing a military option to help pay for college and then pursuing those 4-year degree options afterward, again, we see those types of things all the time as well. So whatever kind of makes the most sense for you, know that that path is going to work out, and we're going to be there to be helping with that process along the way, regardless of where you're at in it.
As you prepare for this journey and open up this new and exciting chapter in your life, I really honestly believe it requires some planning. That's why you're here today and listening to this presentation. And to be quite frank and honest, it's about honesty, absolutely, honesty and honesty with yourself. I think we all agree that it's important for you to ask yourself the hard questions. Why are you going to college? Who are you going to college for? What's your passion? It's a privilege to serve on this wonderful, talented panel today with a combined experience of over 60 years in this profession. And I know without question that we all agree that when you find that right fit, that career that makes you come alive, that all of us can use that line that I think we've all heard in life, and that is that you'll never work a day in your life because you're going to be pursuing that passion. Friends, careers are like ice cream. They really are. There's lots of options. They're all good, but being honest with yourself, is going to help ensure that you're going to pick the best option for you. Because you see, it's important that you grow into the person that you are supposed to, not the person someone else thinks that you should be. So do your homework, be honest with yourself, and I think you're going to be well served.
Absolutely. That's well said, Jim. And to kind of build off of what Jim just said, if you put all the different variables that you're looking for in a college into a machine, it's probably going to spit out more than one answer. So there's not always going to be just one perfect answer when it comes to your college search. But we do have a lot of things to help you kind of narrow down your college search and eventually make that final decision. And one of the most important pieces of that is the college tour or the college visit, which Jim is going to comment on a little bit here.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the best ways to find your college fit is to do some investigation work, the CIA work, if you will, where you're going to uncover and discover. It's kind of like test driving a car before you buy it, or doing a taste test at the ice cream shop to see what flavor you like best, or going on a date. You see, friends, colleges are just excited to welcome visitors and prospective students. And I promise when you go on those college tours, you are going to learn so much, and they're going to be a lot of fun. Brandon, Emily, would you share some interesting ideas, questions about what students want to do on a college tour and a college visit?
Yes, I will start off. I do think that going on a visit, it's that again is one of those, you get to do something that is really fun. It's that your heart is beating, you're bringing air into your lungs, and it is really important to just see how you feel on that campus. And the other fun part about that is you get to probably go on a campus visit with either your parents or siblings, and you might feel something different than someone else does. And that discussion of how some person reacts helps you figure out more about yourself. So that whole process of research is so important. And it also involves, I'm going to plug the high schools here, using your resources at school for some of that pre-work of taking interest assessments, looking at different careers and jobs and what the expectations are and what is the required education. And does that sound like something that you'd like to do? I don't know if your schools use it. Our schools always have used the Minnesota Career Information System website, but just like Andrew had said, there are college search sites there where you can plug in things that are important to you, and it does punch out more than one school. So it's really fun to go figure out about yourself, what's important to you, and also remember that your decision, it's absolutely fine, might be different from your best friends. It's not a right or wrong, and it's not a first or last in terms of rush of the decision. It's that process of trying to honestly figure out what wonderfully talented, multi-talented, multi-interested person you are would like to be for their educational experience.
And then I think when you're doing some of these college tours, it's important to think about, what is the most important piece of information to get to that place of like, kind of feeling that you're kind of making that informed decision, getting the right information for you. I think too often I get students who will ask questions that are very just sort of like yes or no, like, do you have a good math program? I'm going to say yes to that. And I'm going to give, some backup reasons why. But I think a better way to ask a question like that would be to say, how many of your math graduates are employed within 6 months after graduation? How are your math students using what they've learned in the classroom in real world settings? Things that an admission rep can't just say yes or no to, that we're able to think a little bit more critically and get to the root of, why you're asking those types of questions, or how we can be giving you the most kind of factual information within that. So at that bottom kind of point where it's saying ask the tough questions, like that's what our job is here for, is to be that resource for families and students, and to really kind of be giving you as much information to make the most informed decision possible.
And I will also emphasize the eat lunch on campus part. That's always really interesting, that is your home away from home to have all your meals. So doing that on a visit is a great additional option if available. It helps you just see students in the non-academic part of their life on campus too. So that's a good opportunity, fun to do with friends and family too. And I will also encourage you to visit a campus that you don't already know things about. That was always tricky for students to really take a hold of, but you're at this wonderful time in your life where you can explore to your heart's content. And I know that you need to make a decision. So I'm not saying explore all 4,000 colleges in the country, but take a chance to learn about something that you don't already know about. It helps you formulate your decision as well.
All right, so we kind of talked a little bit about the academic and kind of policy procedure type questions that you might want to ask while you're on a tour. But I think one thing that I always like to note is that when you're doing a tour, you're not necessarily just going to be meeting with an admission counselor or the admissions professionals in the office. You're probably going to have a student tour guide, and you'll probably see some students while you're visiting the campus. So that's a really good time to ask some questions about what the student life is like and things that you're personally interested in. So if you really want to participate in a club that, maybe you've had or been involved in your high school, or you are looking for a way to connect with others on campus in a similar religious organization, or LGBTQ+ students, multicultural, student affairs, these are some questions that you can really ask to students, because admission professionals will do a great job of giving you the basics, but it's really important that you hear a student's perspective on this. So I would really encourage you to ask these sorts of questions when you're doing a tour. Ask them about student support services. What is there to help you to succeed in your classes? And then also personally too. You're not just here for academics, you're going to be living on the campus. So you really want to make sure that we have all the support services that you need to be successful. So, if you can do anything on these tours, aside from just asking the basic questions, talk to the students and see what they have to tell you too.
Absolutely spot on advice. And as you've probably realized by now at this point in the presentation, the types of questions that maybe you're going to have to start asking as you launch your college search and start visiting campuses are the types of questions you probably haven't ever had to ask yourself before, because typically a lot of this is just decided for you based on the high school you go to or in the school district that you grow up in. And I know we've presented, a number of questions already, but we do have some additional ones more focused on specifically finding your fit. And so the first part of that is just going to be some different admission questions to consider. And Brandon will get us started with those.
Right. So I think when starting that college search process and thinking about the academic fit or the admission fit of a college, the types of things that you can be asking about can also maybe be some of the things that you do the research on or find some of that information on your own as well. But always remember that if you get stumped with something, like, let us know how we can be helpful, or if you can't find the information, again, reaching out to the admission offices. Those are always kind of just the best ways. But thinking about, what are those application requirements? Does this college require an essay? Is there an application fee? Have I been to visit this campus yet? And, have I had the chance to, kind of get some of these questions answered? These are all types of things that you can be sort of thinking about and asking kind of in that preliminary stage as you start to decide on where you're going to be applying, or once you've started those application process pieces, like, have you checked off all the boxes for each of those individual colleges' admission requirements? Like, have you submitted all of your high school transcripts and things like that along the way? So knowing that, like, there's the types of questions that you could be thinking about and asking along the way for the kind of preliminary stuff.
And Emily, do you want to continue on with a few admission questions here?
Yes, absolutely. So these kind of questions, I want you to think that no question is off the table. The college reps live with this whole process. For you, it's new and exciting, and you won't have all the answers to the questions. So the colleges want you to visit, they want you to ask questions, and things like general education requirements do become important. I will say that I'd also like you to think about what could you do while you're at high school to maybe fulfill some of those requirements. We had students who would do post-secondary enrollment options, or taking AP classes, or other ways to help you fulfill some of those requirements before you even get to college. And their websites have great information about their general education requirements, majors, and what courses you would be taking. And I think it's also extremely valuable to know that you will have a dedicated advisor at the college level who can help you with a lot of the things about declaring a major and what those generals are and when you could change it. And it's very common to change your major. You're learning new things about you. You're learning new options at whatever college you choose. So that advisor is a much closer contact than necessarily the relationship you have with your high school counselor. And even though there are generalizations that are true across a number of colleges or military organizations or two-year schools, some things are very specific to those colleges. So arranging a visit or arranging a tour, that's generally very clear on their websites. But when they have them, how you sign up might be a little different. And same for application deadlines for different schools. They usually have one. Not everyone does. Some are very flexible, but it's not the same deadline for everything. So it is important to keep track of deadlines. Deadlines do matter a lot in the college process. But again, please ask the questions both at the high school level resource and any college rep, whether you end up coming to their school or not. My panel members are happy and like working with you and trying to find what works for you.
So beyond just kind of these standard admission questions, I think the next more policy or kind of factual kind of questions that you might want to be asking are things about financial aid, because when it comes right down to it, if you're admitted to the college, but you can't afford to pay to go to the school there, it's not going to be a good fit for you. So there's a lot of different questions you have to ask when you're trying to determine, monetary questions or financial questions. Right up front, what is the total cost of the college? If it's something that's out of your budget, maybe that's something that should be, a deterrent. Maybe you don't want to look at that college. At the same time, you don't want to just look at that sticker price, because sometimes there's financial aid available to make a more expensive school actually a lot more affordable. or maybe there's a really affordable school that really doesn't have that much financial aid available. So there are some different questions you have to weigh when you are looking through these sorts of questions. One thing that I would always encourage you to do too is be really up on the deadlines. Emily talked a little bit about admission deadlines and, you know, making sure that you've applied on time. That is different for each college. The same goes for financial aid. Colleges might have different scholarship deadlines or different deadlines that they want to receive the FAFSA by. Make sure you don't miss out on these deadlines, especially for financial aid purposes. These are some of the most important deadlines here. If you miss a housing deadline and you don't get to pick a room, you know, that's a bummer. But if you miss a scholarship deadline and you lose out on thousands of dollars, that's a pretty big deal. So make sure that you keep these in mind and pay attention to all the different schools that you're looking at, what their specific guidelines and deadlines are.
Okay, so yeah, you've done, you know, kind of your research with you know, applications and some of the financial aid, and you're ready to maybe start, you know, getting a lot more serious on looking at different schools. Some of the different parts of finding that fit comes along with like the campus tour itself and just sort of seeing how you might behave as a student on that campus. So as you consider some of these questions, these are things that I really like to ask of our campus tour guides, or I encourage students to ask of your tour guide when you're visiting a college, rather, because these are the types of things that, you know, our tour guides are typically current students on a campus, and they can sort of give a lot more perspective as to like what their life looks like. And then that helps you maybe see like, oh, I could also see myself studying in the library, or, oh, their largest class size is about 45 students. That seems like a good sort of fit for me as well. And so as you start to sort of hear from those peer perspectives and the things that, you know, people in your shoes have been doing, I think that that helps maybe visualize yourself on a campus in different ways. So knowing that like there are going to be a lot of different types of people that you can be asking these questions to, but your tour guide, when you do those campus visits, is always going to be a great sort of like interpersonal, closer connection in some cases.
Okay, I'm going to follow up now with housing. So move away a little bit from the more structured time in your academic program, but if you are going to live in a dorm, and not everybody does, and that gets to be a choice a lot of times, but some colleges do require it. So again, depends on your situation. But if you decide to live in the dorm, that's called room. And if you decide to have meal plans, that's called board. So room and board. That living environment is now your new home away from home. So it is important to select an environment that you will enjoy being homesick in, not enjoy, but be able to figure it out, where you might be sick, or it's very normal to be homesick. And it is feels uncomfortable at first to select a roommate, but I always love chatting with students and said, you know, your future roommate is as worried about who you are as you are about them. And if you approach it with an open mind, it generally works out. But every college does have different types of dorms, whether some people prefer and will pay more for a single or a double, or it's a suite, different locations on campus, depends on the size of your campus. And then they also have different ways that you can put in preferences on what your roommate might be like. And they all have different processes as to when you sign up for housing. Some have you sign up for housing even before you know if you've been accepted. Some wait till you are accepted and then you go through the process. So again, ask those questions, and their websites are great with virtual tours of what their different room formats are like. And a lot of students do want to know about having a car on campus. And again, there are different rules on different campuses, but absolutely ask that. It is often possible to commute. Sometimes it's harder to park your car on a far parking lot and walk into campus, but there are all kinds of options available in housing for you too that become pretty specific for your particular college. So do make sure you check it out, because you want to be comfortable where you're living too.
Kind of to elaborate a little bit on Emily's point about being comfortable where you're living, you'll spend a lot of time in the classroom, and you'll probably spend a lot of time, at your residence hall room. But something you also need to consider is the times that you're not in either of those locations. What are you doing? So what is there available on campus for you to participate in? Are there clubs? Are there organizations that you want to be a part of? Is there on-campus programming to, maybe have speakers come in, or comedians or musicians, different things to keep you entertained while you're on campus? What is the campus like on the weekends? Are students staying on campus, or are they leaving for the weekends to head home? These are some questions that you might want to be considering. Also, something to consider is the location too, because if you're in a community that you really feel comfortable in, you're probably going to have a better experience. So there's a lot of these sorts of questions about student life and your experience on campus that are really important. It's sometimes hard to know where to go with these sorts of questions. So I would just ask, what you're interested in. If you really are looking to get involved in, some sort of club that you've participated in high school, ask around and see if that's something that's available on campus. Something else that Emily mentioned a little bit earlier too was meal plans. This is something that I think oftentimes students will feel like is a silly question, but it really isn't. If you are living on campus for at least a year, you want to make sure that you enjoy the food. If you don't, you'll probably be miserable. So it is really important, if you get a chance, try out the food, but just to kind of see what sort of options are available there for the meal plan. It's something that's a good start too.
If you don't mind, I'd like to revisit something we talked about before, and that's honesty. Honesty. Picking a college, honestly, is not about bragging rights. No, it's not at all about bragging rights. Look at the top of your screen, finding your fit. That's what this is all about. It's about being in an environment that's best for you and where you will succeed. It's about being comfortable, as Matt said, about being happy. A good fit is about being happy. And I'll tell you, all of us on this panel, we get no greater joy than graduation day at each of our institutions, when we watch you, that student who is just opening up this exciting new chapter of your life, and now you've just closed that chapter. You walk across the stage, you put your tassel to the other side, and now you go out into the workforce. You've got lifelong relationships that you've developed in college. You pursue an awesome career. And you know what? Just like the five of us, each of you is going to be able to look back and go, wow, what a great decision I made. How fun was college? And in fact, all of us had just terrific experiences at our alma maters. And I hope you can tell by the passion that's on this committee that every one of us could go back to our alma maters tomorrow and take over where we left off, so to speak. And every one of us is passionate about what we do. We get to, we don't got to, I know that's bad English, but we get to do what we do. And that's what we want for you, is so that, when you graduate from college and you go out into the workforce in that wonderful career that you select, that you get to, that you have that passion, and that you just have a lot of joy in life. And all of that's going to happen because of this wonderful investment that you're going to make in you. And so be honest, do your homework, ask yourself all these wonderful questions that my colleagues and I have presented to you, and it's going to be a fun ride, I guarantee you.
I am going to encourage you to make sure you know all the resources that are available in your own high school for not only you, but for your parents too. The college reps probably come to your schools, there are evening presentations, all of these things develop what Jim has been calling honesty. I think how you get to what is honestly best for me is to be aware of the resources at your high school, use them, become familiar with, I mentioned it before, like the Minnesota Career Information System website. The more you ask yourself questions about what is it I might be interested in studying, how would I get there, the more informed your decision will be. And that's part of honesty. The more informed you are about what you need, helps you develop that honesty. There are opportunities, I'm sure, in your high school too, to do job shadows, talk to people in their different careers. We had classes like students could take certified nursing assistant course. They may be interested in being a nurse, take that course in high school, see if that's going for the test ride that Jim talked about. Is that something that I like? Or we have engineering tech courses. All of those things help you figure out more about what you want to do. And so your school counselor, your parents, the CRC, your teachers are great resources. They want to see you succeed too. The more you talk and ask questions about this whole part of growing up and a career and how to learn and where to learn, the more you use the resources and ask the questions, I think you will come out with a decision that will feel really like a good fit for you. And last thing, this is not a race. You do not need to be the first person in your senior class to say, this is where I'm going to school on the second day of senior year. Take the time you need to develop what is best for you.
So I think we've talked a lot throughout this whole presentation about, discovering what's the best fit for you. But I think, sometimes when you come right down to it, there isn't always just one right answer. Andrew talked a little bit earlier about, if you could put everything in a machine and you asked it to spit out the best fit college, you're probably not just going to have one right answer. In fact, there's probably going to be, several different questions that you have to weigh against each other, things that have different values to you. So ultimately, you're going to find that, this college experience that you're searching for is really personal to you. So you need to ask the questions that you care about the most. You're the final decision maker in this process. So you need to determine what's important for finding that fit for yourself. If I could recommend a way to just kind of, generally ask questions about if a college is going to be the right option for you, if you can picture your ideal college experience, what does that look like to you? Are you in a big campus? Are you in a small community? Are you, studying in person, or are you doing online courses? There's a lot of different things that you need to be asking yourself. So if you can just ask all these questions and just remember to trust your gut, you're going to come out with the right choice in the end.
Alrighty, well, that brings us to a close here. We're very excited to answer your questions. So again, if you have them, feel free to put them in the Q&A box. In the meantime, I'm just going to leave this slide up for 1 second here. If you're looking to find more information about Concordia College, NDSU, or NDSCS, you can find all of our websites on your screen. Of course, quick Google search, you can also find us that way. And we'd be more than happy. I think someone had said it earlier in the presentation, I think it was Emily, whether you end up at one of these colleges or not, if you're just looking for general pointers, kind of where to get started, we'd certainly be happy to talk with you and kind of help guide you through that process. So that being said, going to stop sharing my screen and we'll take a look here in the chat if we do have any questions. Let's see, here's one that I get asked a lot, just a common fear. And that is something that Emily had touched on earlier. What happens if I get a year in or even a semester into my major and just find that it's not working, that I don't like it? And Matt, I'm going to have you address this question because I know that you changed your major while you were at NDSU.
Yeah, I can definitely answer that. This is something that I get asked a lot, and I think it's a pretty common concern for most students, especially for those who haven't been totally locked into their major for a long period of time. When I was in high school, I probably switched what I wanted to do in college 5 or 6 times, and then I got to college, did it for a year and a half, and ended up switching again. So just know that it's not something that is the be-all, end-all decision that you need to make. But it's good to start exploring some different options. So if you can just kind of take a look at different majors and determine what is something that, at least piques your interest, that would be helpful. If, it comes down to it and you get to your sophomore year even and you decide, hey, this isn't going to be a good fit, I need to make a change, that's usually going to be okay. There's a lot of general courses that you're taking earlier on in your college year, just to kind of get a good overview of all sorts of different subjects, but hopefully within that year, you've kind of determined a little bit more on kind of what your path is going to be like. And if you need to switch a major, that's something that's perfectly natural. I think I've heard the statistic before, and it kind of shifts each year, but about 70% or 80% of students end up switching their major once they get to college. So if that's you, you're part of the majority here, so it's not something to be worried about too much.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. Here's another question. Emily, I think you would have some good perspective on this one, because we had talked several times about putting all of your parameters into a machine and, getting several answers. So what happens if a student gets to like this time of year, April, coming up on May 1st or that general timeline, and they still have 2 or 3 colleges that they're deciding between? Were there any like common tiebreakers that your students would look to help them make those decisions?
Yeah, I love that question. I think it can be very stressful. I think sometimes what happens is that seniors get accepted at more colleges than they thought they might. And so that idea that somehow I have to say no to an acceptance is really hard. So how do I make my decision? One of the things that has helped students the most is, if possible, to go visit again. Because sometimes if you visited before you knew that you were actually accepted there and that the financial piece would work out, you sometimes are afraid to like it too much or afraid not to like it. So being able to visit again, and now you could be on that campus. Is this really where you can picture yourself? Now you can walk around with that self-knowledge and self-power. Can I visualize myself? Can I picture myself getting there? If it's an airplane, can I see myself doing that by myself? I came here to see it with my parents. Can I see myself doing that myself? Do I feel like I'm overwhelmed by big, or do I feel constrained by small? And sometimes it's best to visit again when you're actually in that power position to say, I could go here. Do I really want to? And sometimes students will come away with a pretty strong choice after reassessing in that real way.
Definitely. I think all of us would emphasize just the importance of the college visit for helping kind of narrow down options. Because sometimes just the more colleges you visit, whether that's virtual or in person, you not only find out what you do like in a campus, but you're also going to find things that you don't like in a campus. And again, that can help you kind of narrow in on where you want to end up.
Right. And some of it is that honesty piece too, of, is this really the best setting for me? When you know that you have that power to say yes to one, you can kind of be more clear for yourself. You know what? All my friends really thought a big school would be great, but you know what? Now that I visited again, now that I know these things about myself, I think this other choice would be better for me. So that that after you have an acceptance and know you could go there with all other pieces, can really be powerful in that decision.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I see that the time is 1:45. Norma, are we good to keep going here with any more questions, or would you like to wrap us up? It looks like you're muted still.
Sorry. Sorry, we have to wrap it up because there's another session that will be starting shortly.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again, everyone, so much for joining. I think Norma has a parting slide to share with us. And then other than that, though, again, thank you from all of us, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Fantastic. So thank you again for joining us. When you close this window, there will be a link to a very quick 4-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback you can provide. Also, this is just one of the many sessions hosted, and be sure to look at the additional sessions at mn-acac.org. In about a week, you'll be able to see the sessions recordings and all the other sessions that you may have attended or you may have missed. And again, thank you so much. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.